Hello folks, hope you're all doing well. It's that's an okay day today. It's pretty warm, it's supposed to get up to about, I don't know, 18 degrees or something like that today. It's not very sunny, it's a bit overcast, but it's nice. And you know what? That'll do me. Anyway, something a little bit different for today. You know how if I spin round you can see the polytunnel over there. So during the week we got the beds filled up in there, some lovely nice new fresh compost. So a little bit later on today I've got the first batch of chilies in the car that are going to go out there. They're the first ones that are going out. It's a little bit of an experiment because I've got some spare ones, so if it does get too cold overnight, which I don't think it should do looking at the forecast that's coming, bit of a mini heat wave sort of forecast over the next couple of weeks, so hopefully they'll be okay and survive. But if they don't quite survive, then at least I've got some spares to replace them with. You know, nothing lost, nothing ventured, nothing gained, shall we say. But what am I doing today? And let's have a little walk down here, down this end of the plot, skipping past the rhubarb that's looking absolutely superb at the moment. Had a few pickings off that, but look at that, look, another pesky flower. We're getting rid of that. Anyway, we're not here to see the rhubarb, we're here to see this. So right at the very end of this path on my plot is this stuff here, and this is Comfrey, and it's a particular variety called Bocking 14, but I'll come to that in a bit and about it. But what you can do with it is you can make some absolutely beautiful, rich, nutritious, free plant food for all sorts of different stuff. It's absolutely brilliant for tomatoes, and it grows all over the place. It doesn't just grow in my plot, so if you bear with me, what we'll do, I'm going to step over the fence here. I'll try not to fall over on camera, but just sort of, I'm like at the very edge of the allotment, so if I just have a little walk over here, there's a big sort of dumping ground sort of pile over here, and if I spin you around, this is where people dump all their sort of their weeds and things like that. And once or twice a year, the company that owns the site comes along and clears all this out. But you can see up here, look, in the bushes, we've got comfrey growing in the wild. So you can either buy it from the shop, like I've done. I bought that as bare roots, and I planted that about 2 years ago. So this is the first time I'm getting some pickings off it. It did grow last year, but it was very tall, it was very skinny. If I'd picked it, it wouldn't have done it any good. So we left it last year. It died back over the winter, and it's come back so much better this year. I'm really glad that I didn't get tempted to pick it last year, and we've just gone for this year. So it's absolutely brilliant. Excuse me while I try not to fall over the fence again while I was climbing over it, but it's looking brilliant. So what I'll do is I'll get you set up on the tripod and whatnot, and I'll take you through how we're going to use that, how I'm going to create the Comfrey Tea, as you call it, and what I'm going to use it for in the polytunnel and around about the plot. So I'll be back with you in just a jiffy. So why Comfrey? Well, it's absolutely brilliant. It has stacks of nutrition in it. It's got really, really, really deep roots that go very, very far into the ground, and as such it pulls up loads of nutrition into those leaves. And the leaves are absolutely jam-packed full of potassium. Now, potassium is absolutely great for flowers and fruits and things like that. So the peppers, the tomatoes, the raspberries you see over there, the strawberries over there, even sunflowers. Little hint, it's brilliant for growing massive sunflowers. It's fab for sunflowers, but it's absolutely chock-a-block full of nutrition. And the best thing about it is it's free. Once you find it, or once you start growing it, year after year after year after year, it's free. Like I say, I did originally buy these were bare roots, and it was maybe 7 or 8 quid for 5 of them, and that was a couple of years ago. So that investment's done. So everything that grows from now on for me is free. But like I showed you over there on the side of the sort of bank at the allotment there's some growing in the wild. So they're generally seen as weeds in the wild. So when they grow in the wild like that, you can go and find it, pick it, use it absolutely free. So it's absolutely brilliant. It does come with a little bit of a health warning though, because once you make the Comfrey Tea, as it gets called Comfrey Tea, it absolutely stinks. So you want to be really, really careful about getting on your hands or on your clothes or anything like that. And when I say it absolutely stinks, I mean it absolutely stinks. It's rotten, it's awful. It smells like rotten sewage. It's horrible. But anyway, what am I going to do with these plants? I'm going to start snipping them off. So there we are. There's a comfrey leaf with a bit of stalk. We don't want the bit of stalk because we want the leaves to sort of break down into the comfrey tea. And obviously I'll come to in a wee bit how I'm going to make the comfrey tea from that. So I'm just going to keep collecting plenty of these leaves, some of these bigger ones from the bottom there. And whilst I'm collecting them, the one thing you want to do is try and use these leaves as fresh as possible, because that's when they've got the most nutrition in them. And you want to capture all that nutrition, all that goodness. You want that in your comfrey tea. So don't come along, sniff it, pick it, put it in a bag, put it to one side, leave it for a few days, come back to it. Oh, no good. Get it done straight away. Anyway, enough of that lecture. What I'm going to do is I'm going to snip off a load of these leaves, and then we'll migrate to the top of the plot where I've got some other stuff set up, and I'll show you how I'm going to make the comfrey tea, and we'll get all that good plant fertilizer. Back with you in just a jiffy. Right, so on to making the comfrey tea. So we have all our comfrey leaves here. I've started putting some of them in this bucket. There's nothing much to this bucket. This is just an old food caddy that we had at home. It's one of the ones that we used to put food waste in before the council changed it. We put all our food waste in the one bin now with the garden waste and things like that. So it's pretty much the ideal thing to make comfrey tea in. You can use a normal bucket as long as it doesn't have holes in. This is one of the 30-litre potato buckets, just to give you some idea of how many leaves I've picked that's going to go into a container about this big. And there's nothing much to it in the next steps. I'm just going to tear these leaves up in half and just pop them in here. Now, I'm not going to bore you with me for the next 10 minutes tearing up these leaves and putting them in there, but just to show you how simple it is to make comfrey tea, all I'm going to do is, after I've torn those leaves up, we're just going to chuck a load of water in there. And for that amount of leaves in there, so say one of those 30-litre buckets, this is a 10-litre watering can. I'm going to put 10 litres of water in there. And I'm just going to leave that in there probably for at least 2 weeks, I reckon. And I'll check on it from time to time. And then we'll see what it looks like after that. And once it's ready, it becomes a really dark, rich brown sort of colour. And like I mentioned before, absolutely stinks. And I'll be very, very carefully dispensing it out of here using some sort of funnel sieve system and using the 4-pint milk cartons to put it in. And then that'll store that in there for the rest of the season. And if we make loads, it'll store in the shed over winter and stuff like that, ready for next year. So what else to mention about this? I said earlier on about the variety of comfrey that I'm using, that I'm growing on the edge of the plot there. Now, it's a specific variety called Bocking 14. So why am I using Bocking 14? Bocking 14 doesn't spread. Now, I said earlier, a lot of people see comfrey as a weed because certain varieties of it can spread like wildflower. It'll flower, it'll seed, it'll drop the seeds, and it'll grow all over the place. And with those really, really deep set roots, if it's grown somewhere you don't want it, it's an absolute pain to get rid of or shift it. So Bocking 14 is the variety you want because it's not going to self-seed and it's not going to spread itself all over the place. And I think that's probably just about it. It really is that simple. Grab some comfrey, take the stalks off, tear the leaves in half, chuck them in a bucket, add some water, leave it for a couple of weeks and store it in whatever sort of container you happen to have to hand. I'm going to use milk cartons. Most people have milk cartons, but you can literally use anything. Pop bottles, anything at all like that. And I mentioned earlier on about some of the plants that we've got out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to, just for one very, very last second, I'm going to grab you off the tripod there. And we're going to come over here. So these are the first 2 plants that have gone out in the polytunnel. They've just gone out today. And these are 2 different varieties of chilies. This one here is called Chocolate Doula. And this one over here is a Orange Habanero Big Sun. And the one thing I wanted to mention just about feeding your plants, and I'll come to these halo pots and stuff like that in later videos about how I'm going to use them. You see, they've got the trough for the water and stuff like that. Is always feed your plants from above. So I'll be putting the feed directly in this bit in the middle here where the compost is and where the plant is. So they'll be going in there. And again, if I switch over this side, these are another couple of chilies here. These ones here are called Basket Fire, and they're going to go in bigger pots. They get potted out in pots and they're going to sit outside because they're an outside variety of chili. They're not going to live in here. And again, I'll be feeding them in the top there and not soaking them up through the bottom. Anyway, I think that's about it done. So say comfrey feed, comfrey tea, whatever you want to call it, absolutely brilliant. It's free, it's organic, and it's really rich and nutritious, and it's great for your fruits and your flowers. If you want to see how the Comfrey Tea turns out, say a couple of weeks' time, please think about subscribing. It's absolutely free. Just click the button below. You might even see me pouring some stinky Comfrey solution all over me and smelling for the rest of time. Anyway, that's me done for today. Thank you very much for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.